Here we are. It's Friday.
Finally.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, because we were in New York this week. This week has approximately lasted 84 days.
Yeah, it's the opposite of a 3-day work week or a 4-day work week or whatever it is.
I'll tell you what I've got, though, Paul.
What's that?
I've got candies.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
Did you actually get the sake or did you just get
So
candy?
I was very confused on this.
Okay.
Yes, I did. But what comes in the sake box is sake candy.
Oh, it's like Twix
not like-
sake candy?
Yeah, it's not. I was expecting, the drink.
Yeah,
that's-
of course.
But it's probably hard
So
to
it's sake flavored candy.
but it's got alcohol in it.
Oh.
This
well,
is
the
the
next time your
Japanese
daughter's
version of an
acting
edible.
up. Yes. So have you had any?
I have. The sake, it tastes like sake. That is exactly it. With a little bit of punch from the alcohol that's in there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But
All right.
there were many flavors. So this was sake.
Mm-hmm.
This is melon flavored Kit Kat.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. This one is mint flavored Kit Kat. This one is strawberry flavored Kit Kat.
Ew.
Which this one's okay. And then there's actually a cherry flavored Kit Kat. There was only one of those in the box, and it was terrible. It tasted like Robitussin.
Yeah.
And then there's this guy. This is wasabi flavored
Oh.
Kit Kat. Which
Kit Kat with a little kick.
I got to tell you, the wasabi is my favorite.
I can see that.
I did not expect that. I was expecting it to be, because I mean, this is, there's weird flavored candies in Japan. And this, I figured the wasabi was just going to be terrible. It's actually, I think, maybe the best. The sake is interesting, I think, only just because of the alcohol. Otherwise, it's just kind of, I mean, it's a little bland, if anything.
Okay.
Yep. Well, that does it for this week, folks, and we'll we'll catch you right back here.
This episode of Sake Weekly.
There is going to be an episode at some point. I'm assuming when the whole world ends that we're just profusely drinking on this.
This is exactly how this podcast goes down, in flames and covered in alcohol.
The title will be "You do a shot, I do a shot, we all do a shot."
Right.
As we,
We'll hit various milestones.
yeah. Anyways, this kind of came out of, I don't know if you want to call it nowhere, but Apple announced publicly through a blog post of rose gold flavored glasses or tinted glasses.
Okay.
That
you
they
gotta find a friendly audience for your message.
Yeah, that they're kind of around the way admitting that their Maps app was terrible. Nobody had ever actually said that. Nobody ever written a blog post that Apple Maps was terrible. Nobody's ever complained. But Apple is, they're coming out of the woodwork and here and saying, you know what, our maps weren't great. And the whole world takes a deep breath and says, yeah, no shit.
Yep.
And they are rebuilding it from the ground up with their own vehicles and using iPhones from people walking out in the world, which actually isn't all that surprising. It's more surprising that they're taking this long, that they only have 1 billion of these things floating around.
Hold on a second. Are you telling me that Apple is going to take the private data from users on their phones and where they go, and they're going to use that anonymously to make their product better?
I think it's opt-in only.
Okay. Opt-in only. You think there's a thing in the iPhone that says, hey, did you want to send your data to Apple?
I believe so. I believe you've got it's just like any other telemetry data.
Is this available in the product today, or is that something that's coming?
I believe it's coming with iOS 12.
Oh, well, I have to look at that. That's interesting.
Yeah, but the somewhat more interesting thing here is that the vehicles driving around are creating these really high dense maps. It's also, while Apple did not confirm, believe that this is how Apple is actually going to map out the world for their self-driving vehicles.
I'm surprised no one thought of doing this earlier and already had an incredible amount of data to this effect. It's smart of Apple to do this.
Yeah. So, Apple Maps will soon be not. So
Meanwhile, Google is like mapping the moon and Mars and the Marinara Trench or whatever it's called. Marinara might be a
marinara.
I caught myself. Relax.
Well, it goes great with the mozzarella mountains.
That's good. That's what. Well, that's where the that's where the calamari comes from. It makes sense. But Google's or Apple bought a couple cars and they're driving around. So neat.
Yeah. So we will see. The the only sort of interesting thing here is Apple's finally redoing their maps, and on CarPlay they're now going to let you use Google Maps. So maybe they realize that, hey, this isn't going to work. But as Google has shown, if you really do want to build your own maps, you can't buy data from other people. You have to actually go out and get it. And so Apple's going to be fighting that battle.
Yeah. Microsoft did it, and that worked out great.
Yeah, that's why we got marinara trench.
Popped a piece of corn out of my nose there. So, yeah, the marinara. Yes. Oh boy. Well, good luck to everybody using this product. By the way, this may explain why they are allowing third-party maps onto CarPlay, because they know the next couple of years are going to be kind of a shit show.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely they're starting with California, and they're aggressively moving outward. But
neat. The whole world centers on there, so it makes sense.
Yep. So that's
what else centers on California, Brad? The worst possible earthquake that this planet could ever experience.
You're not wrong. I mean, it's a joke, but people keep saying California's going to fall into the ocean one day. But They're really not joking. Like, it is going to happen. It's going to become its own little island. And I haven't decided if that's better or worse yet.
I like the idea of Idaho beachfront property.
It'll be cheap. Got to move in fast. Mm. It's a beautiful state, let me tell you. I've been there.
Okay. I didn't mean to bring it up for that reason, but yes.
Nor did I, but I was like, you know what?
You must have driven through like the little skinny part of it. Isn't like Idaho like
the French
West
fry.
Virginia of the West or whatever?
The French fry of the potato state.
Yeah. Oh boy. Anyway.
Yep. What is? I got my hair cut today, and
yep, things are falling out of your head.
Yeah, and I think that they're like brain cells. I was going to say stem cells, but that'd be even worse. So, Paul, I think it's fair. Yeah. They should have called 1803 the blitzkrieg update.
Wow.
Because it's moving in on entrenched territory.
It's destroying Europe. So, oh, I see where you're going with this. Yeah, so
a sensible analogy, yes.
Yeah, both AdDuplex and Microsoft had basically said that the pace at which this thing was rolling out was 2 times the rate of the previous update, which had rolled out pretty damn quickly, actually. Mm-hmm. And today, AdDuplex came up with their second report in the wake of this release, and it's apparently now on 78.1, I think was the number, % of all Windows 10 PCs out in the world. Obviously that's skewed by corporate PCs and so forth. Yeah, I mean, we're kind of heading toward full deployment by like the end of July, is where it's looking. So
yeah,
interesting.
The other notable thing, which I can't remember if this is out of pattern, if you will, with the Windows builds, they're already doing a bug bash, which feels a little early.
Early?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have an article I'm going to try to post today that is kind of a Redstone 5 check-in. I did my previous one about 6 weeks ago, and I kind of listed out, here are the big bucket features they've discussed so far. And at the time, it was over 11 builds that they had released of this product. Between then and now, they've released 6 more builds. There's tons of new features that we know about. None of them are particularly major, obviously. I mean, that's kind of one of the more interesting things with this release, especially since they've canceled sets. But my thinking is that this is kind of halfway between that first post that I wrote, which was early May, or whatever it was, it doesn't matter, and between when I figure they're going to wrap things up from a feature complete standpoint, which I would put it in early August, Mm-hmm. I would have thought a bug bash thing would have been later, like in July. But I wonder if this isn't tied to that 1803 rollout thing, which is, if you go back like a year at the Creators Update, and probably less so for the Fall Creators Update, previous updates, one of the embarrassments perhaps was that when a new version of Windows 10 was coming out, the previous version wasn't fully deployed. And I'm sure what their goal was to get to that point, right? So that when this next version comes out, this thing will be fully deployed. The last one was. But this one will probably be even more so, like it will happen more quickly. It's kind of like the Apple thing. We can kind of brag that this is where we're at, and our customer base is kind of moving along with us. We don't have any more stragglers. And so maybe that's what this is about. They're trying to shore this thing up. Maybe the feature completeness of this, if you will occur more quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And they won't have the embarrassment, the one big embarrassment they had from this past release, which was they called it the April update. It was, 1803, which stands for March. They had a huge screw up, couldn't release it on time, and it really didn't get broadly deployed until May. So maybe this time they're like, look, we're going to call this thing 1809 probably. It's going to be done in September. For real.
Interesting.
Maybe.
I
don't know.
Yeah,
I just talk.
Yeah, and to be honest, I kind of just tune you out most of the time.
Yeah, no, I drifted off right in the middle of that. I have no idea what we're talking about.
Oh, interesting times. I don't know. We will see. The bug bash just caught me off guard mostly because that typically means that they're getting closer to, say, a release date, which we all know was supposed to be it's in 09, so September.
September. But that's like an art. You don't call it this, but like that's RTM. Like this is. Mm-hmm. We're delivering the code. PC makers have got it. They can start put it in their products. I think they want to be ahead of schedule this year. This release. I think they were embarrassed by what happened last time. They've obviously sped up the deployment. I think they want this one to go out the door more quickly, and that will be considered a big success. Which it is. It would be.
Yeah. So we will see. We will see. I mean, there's nothing. They haven't really announced any large features. I mean, the only thing they've really announced, to be honest, is that they're taking some stuff away at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no timeline. There's no my people. There's no
timelines in it. There's no sets.
Right, but I mean, there's no like timeline level like grandeur feature.
That's right. Yeah, that's true.
Of this release, so we shall see. We shall see. Well, folks, one of the things we do here on Friday, and if I wouldn't punch my mic, that'd probably be helpful, is we take a look back at some of the comments, and there's actually two that I want to call out. One's a forum post, but one's a comment. The first one comes on Microsoft delaying sets, which we just talked about. Comes from Greg Edwards. He says, I'm fine with this. Honestly, I'm still not entirely convinced that sets even make sense as a UI construct within the current Windows paradigm. Right. It's simply a way to group like Windows so you can resize them together. Basically nothing you couldn't already do with the existing taskbar and multiple desktops. Am I missing something other than nuance that makes this a must-have feature? And I kind of tend to agree with him.
Yeah, somebody asked this in the Ask Paul thing I do on Fridays, and I had a similar response, which was, the way that I work, I don't want everything to be tabs, for one thing. I just don't prefer that. However they implement it, I hope you can kind of switch it off, because for me personally, I would never use it. I think where tabs make the most sense are in document-based applications. And we think of it as being a web browser feature, which it is. The way Microsoft was implementing it, it was like bringing Edge to every window, because it was implemented just like Edge tabs. It looked like it worked, had the same features and everything. Microsoft Word and Excel and maybe PowerPoint, and not that people probably work on multiple PowerPoints at once, might benefit from this tab feature, that is. File Explorer, not really. I mean, I know some people are really looking forward to it. I don't quite see the benefit of that personally. I prefer to have multiple windows. I like to work with things side by side, and I like the naturalness of alt-tabbing between applications. So I don't know. I mean, everyone's different. I get that. I think the one thing I did put in my response, and I should mention it here too, is the presence of sets never bothered me.
Yeah.
Me not using it doesn't hurt me, or it being there doesn't hurt me because I'm not using it. There is all kinds of things in Windows I don't use that don't hurt me. If you don't use Timeline or the Task View or the My People interface or Cortana or whatever, that thing being there doesn't hurt you. And in some cases, you can remove them from the screen just to free up the real estate or whatever. But if there are people out there who want this and are really looking forward to it, I mean, I think it's going to happen. It's fine, and you'll get it, and that's great. But it's like when they added virtual desktops to Windows. A lot of people are like, finally, we've been pushing this for this for years, and it's like, great, now you have it. So what? Like it doesn't change the world in any way,
right?
So it's neat that it's there, and for the handful of people that want it, it's great. And I would just, maybe even speaking more generally, I would just say I prefer them to focus on this kind of thing because the end result is a productivity enhancement for those people who are going to use it, and it doesn't get in the way for those people who aren't, and that's perfect. It's not some stupid mixed reality 3D, whatever thing, which again, you can ignore. You don't have to use that stuff either, but I prefer them to be focusing on core productivity tasks. The other thing to think about is, what if sets never happens, right? It's still great that they went down this path because they implemented this probably based on feedback. It seems like a good idea on the surface of things. And then you kind of look at, well, how is this going to work within the context of the stuff we've been using for decades? And maybe it doesn't work. But great, you went down that, now you can answer the question. This is why we don't have tabs. It doesn't work. Either outcome is fine. It's fine.
Yep. For sure. I agree. Don't ship it until it's ready, but also don't announce it until you think you can ship it on time.
You.
And then the other thing here comes from a forum poster named Sean. He wrote up a 1 year later first impressions of his Surface laptop. I definitely think it's a good read. It's somebody who clearly has been using this device. It's not Paul or I. And he just kind of gives his genuine feedback of the device. I think it's good.
I chimed in on that because I really appreciated seeing it. I don't know what blog this is on, and I'm not trying to out anybody, but some tech blog published a 1 year later with the Surface laptop. And of course, what they show is like this Cheetos stained Alcantara keyboard rest area. And it's like, Microsoft said this is going to be durable, and I'm not a particularly dirty person. And it's like, really? I'm looking at the wrist rest in your laptop, and I think you might actually be a pig. In fact, it's possible you purposely destroyed that thing to make your point. I have not had my Surface laptop as long as 1 year. I have not used it daily. And so I read that and I thought, I don't think this is right, but I can't respond. My experience with this is not enough for me to counter what that guy wrote. So I have my opinions about it, but who cares? Everyone has opinions. So the fact that this guy got on our forums today or whenever he did that and posted his own 1 year later thing, which I don't think was a response to the post I was talking about, and verified what I thought, which was that, you have to take care of anything you use, but he didn't do anything special. His thing's fine. That was my expectation. So anyway, it's a good post. It's worth reading.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And speaking of things to read, today is Michael's. Geez, we are just on fire with the Mariana Trench and Michael's fiscal year end. It's Microsoft's fiscal year end today.
The Mariana Trench.
Yeah, technically tomorrow, but expect potentially if Microsoft's going to make big announcements regarding organizational structure, bigger, probably not any bigger than the reorg they just did, but potential other changes. July is a good month for that. And then we also have Inspire coming up, but I can tell you next week, Paul, is probably going to be pretty much a snooze fest because on Wednesday, we Americans are going to be lighting off fireworks.
Yeah, this is actually a really auspicious day in many ways. It's the last business work day, whatever, of the fiscal year for Microsoft, and it's on a Friday. And when do companies often post really bad news? Friday night.
Tuesdays. Oh, I mean, yep. Right.
So we'll see. It's interesting. I expect Microsoft to announce a bunch of bad news or anything like that. I don't have any insight like that, but it is interesting that this day is on a Friday. So, we'll see what happens. But you're right. Yeah. Next week. So we have the holiday. I'm going to be out much of the day on Monday, but not as much time as I thought from before, because it's going to be like 2,000 degrees out. So
yep.
I might be able to work in the morning a bit. I don't think we're going to head out into the world too early. We'll see.
Yeah.
I do think that I do think there's going to be some kind of a layoff component to the reorg that Microsoft announced back in, when was that? Late March, early April, whenever that was. I don't know. Would that fall now, or does that wait for July? I can't remember how that works. July, probably. No, actually, I don't know. Maybe we're sitting on a ticking time bomb here.
I think we always are.
All right.
So, yep. Next week should be slow. Paul and I will figure out we're definitely not podcasting on Wednesday. Are you going to be around Monday to do it?
So what I was going to do was I've got friends who are visiting. They're arriving today. And what we kind of we threw them a schedule. They agreed to everything. And now that we've seen how hot it's going to be, we kind of we reset on that. And so when they get here, I'm going to talk with them. So I'll know before then. But I think I will be able to do it Monday. Worst case, I might just see if we can do it earlier, just to get it in. But yeah, I think I'll be able to do it. I think so.
Well, fun. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning in for the live show today. We should probably be back on Monday, as Paul gave us a real solid answer there. And have yourselves a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you right back here next time.